Thanks, Cheryl.
Thank you, everybody, for coming in today. So this is the Ignite Your Life conference, and hopefully by the time we're finished today, in the next 12 hours, well, we're going to be snowed in, right? I don't think there was any snow coming down yet, but I kept on watching the forecast, and it said snow.
It's snowing.
It's snowing?
It's snowing.
Sticking?
Yeah.
Thanks, Mom. Now everybody's fight or flight reflex just turned on. Okay, so I'm Dr. Rick, for those of you who don't know me. I'm thank you very much for coming out today. This will hopefully be a very empowering lecture. And actually it's not a lecture, it's a Q&A. We just happen to be giving a presentation on our best results and other ideas. I realize that some of my patients, so I see patients in Bartlett, and I'm family practice, and I realize some of my patients are still having difficulty, although some of my patients are kicking some ass as far as lifestyle change. And I have no problems with admitting that if there's something that's not working with me, I want other people to be involved too. I think all of our goals, we have a wide variety of different specialties. And all of our goals are a bit different, but they're all for you guys to be successful. And is this too loud in the back? Just enough? Okay, thanks. So I'm going to, Cheryl, you want to talk about the preemptive stuff?
Yep. So can everyone hear me now without the mic? Yes. Okay, good. We're so glad that you're here, especially with the iffy weather, but I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm Cheryl Vander, I'm the manager of physician strategy and recruitment. I've been at Sherman 21 years, and I'm going to brag, and I didn't tell Dr. Rick this, but I'm going to brag a little bit about him. We have an incredible medical staff here at Advocate Sherman, and what you probably don't know is that we rank in the top 10 percentile in the nation for patient quality outcomes. We don't do a good enough job in marketing so that people know that. We should be doing a better job. We will in the future, but I know as a result of recruiting many of the physicians that are here at Sherman, I know all the medical staff and physicians very well, and just wanted you to know that I've been a patient of Dr. Saguil's for many, many years. I choose him. And why? Because he listens, he partners with me about our health goals, and he gives me options that are not just conventional medicine options. He's doing integrated medicine and holistic medicine. So I just wanted, that's my little testimonial. I choose Rick. So, okay. So a couple housekeeping items. What I want to point out right now is this room is super tech, and we ask that you don't have any drinks or food in here, but we will, and I'm not looking at any of your drinks right now. We will, when the presentation is over, have healthy snacks for you and beverages out by the lakeside cafeteria, and our speakers will also be out there at their tables, and if you want to speak with them privately and ask questions, they're there to do that with you as well, so we will have food there. I want you also to know that because of the tech in the room, you may or may not see the speakers walking around. They don't have to have a mic, so you can hear me in the back. You'll notice that we have about 85 speakers and mics in the room. So it's really cool and high tech, but it also means that if you're in the back catching a phone call or speaking with your neighbor, everyone in the room can hear. So this is FYI. If you'd like to take a phone call, do it. Just walk out to the rotunda out there. There's chairs out there. We also have men's and women's restrooms right outside. So feel free to just get up and come and go as you please. And I think that's all housekeeping we have.
Okay.
I'll be working on the IT, and I'm not an IT person, so bear with me. Hopefully it'll be smooth.
Thanks, Cheryl.
Welcome.
So, this is the format of our lineup. So we are packed with information. Hopefully, if those of you who have questions, if you can hold them till the end, if you have difficulty with remembering questions, then it's fine. You can fire off and we'll try to answer it, or we'll try to package it and present it to our other speakers at the Q&A afterward, okay? So, first off, I'm going to introduce Julie. Julie actually was a patient at, which one was it? No, you were an attendee for like 2 years ago. 3 years ago. So I had one of these 3 years ago. Julie came in and made spectacular changes, and this is her. So I'm going to have you, if you guys don't mind, just talking and giving a couple minutes of whatever you want to as far as your introduction, and then empower.
Hello. Dr. Saguil, thank you for inviting me to speak today. Also for being an advocate for all of us. You are the reason why we are all here. And I just want to say thank you for being an advocate for health and wellness in our community. And you have such a desire to impact the world. We are all here because of you, so thank you. Thank you for bringing us all here today. My name is Bowen. I am a certified health coach, and I have been coaching clients for almost 3 years, and I have most definitely come to understand the value of having a community exactly like this one, where we can all share what we're doing, how we can all impact lives, how we can all create a lifestyle for ourselves and for others that is based around health and wellness. So before I kind of go into what I do as a health coach, I wanted to pose a few questions to the audience, just so I can get a gauge of what you guys are here for. So raise your hand just for this. How many of you came here today looking for a health solution? Okay. How many of you came here today to learn something new? Okay. How many of you came here today because Dr. Saguil told you to? And you don't So, yes, that's why many of us are here. And like he said, 3 years ago, I came here today. I was sitting in the same seats you're sitting in, and I came here looking for a solution. I came here looking for something new. I was struggling in my health. I needed some help, and I needed someone to help me and guide that, and Dr. Saguil led me to this. When I was sitting in the seats that you're sitting in, I saw another woman up here, and she was the health coach. She is now my health coach, and she was doing this, and I knew when I saw her that this is what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to impact people through nutrition. I wanted to be a part of a community of wellness-minded people, and I knew that everything that I wanted was on the other side of helping people transform, because healthy is a catalyst for great things. And I also knew that I needed tools that were simple and effective, and I needed a way to create a way of life for people that was not just a diet. So what I do as a health coach is exactly that. I create and I work with people, and we create a comprehensive approach to behavioral changes, and we combine that with habits of health system. The program that I coach is actually physician-led. We have many healthcare providers in our practice who are also doctors, and they have brought this into their practices in order to help their patients and guide their patients, because they do see the value in having these tools to assist their patients into making their health goals a reality. Many times healthcare providers use the tools that we provide because they want to prevent the sickness in their patients. They don't want to see them struggle, so they do this up front so they can prevent the disease. And sometimes they do it on the after side, and we're treating the disease too, but the best part is when you can actually prevent the disease to start with. Most people come to me in the beginning because they do have weight loss. Weight loss is their health concern. So whether they have 15 pounds to lose or whether they have 150 pounds to lose, this is still very impactful. You know, what's 10 pounds to you is 100 pounds to someone else. And it impacts their self-esteem, it impacts their quality of life. They are hurting. So one of the things that we do is we help people with that. I have helped people come off of blood pressure medications, they have reduced their insulin intake, and we do all of this by focusing on nutrition. Some people have even reversed their type 2 diabetes, so that's a huge, amazing win. Some people really just want to show up better for their families, and they want to be the best versions of themselves, and they need to lose weight to feel good and do that. That's the power of nutrition. So we guide clients with simple tools, we have predictable transformations, and their weight loss is the catalyst for so much more in their lives. And having a health coach is the support system that people have sometimes never had. So they need that, we guide them through that. They're having one-on-one support, they have mentorship. That's what makes this program stand out, and that's what makes health coaching stand out, is because you can be that mentor for someone else. And that's what I guide them, I assist them, we really change your life. I want to be their biggest cheerleader, I want to share their challenges, I want to support them with victories along the way, and I want to also be there if they do have setbacks, because you know, life happens, we all know that that happens, and sometimes you need someone in your corner saying, you know, it's okay, let's jump back in here, let's do this, what's next? So I provide support in reaching those weight goals, and we celebrate all throughout the journey. We also have a healthy community. Many times people are not surrounded by a healthy community, you know, they don't have this. So there's so many people that are out there that need a health community. They want to be on the same path. We want to optimize their surroundings. We want to have a place for positivity, celebrating victories, like I said, and just to feel supported. So the energy behind that healthy community is really life-changing. I know personally I would not still be working on my health and constantly, that's a focus in my life if I did not have a healthy community. So it's tough when you don't have that in your lives, and that's what we want to provide for people. So honestly, to kind of sum it all up, as a health coach, what I really want to do and what I strive to do for people is guide them to be the dominant force in their life. I want to share a way to reach out, embrace a different way for people to approach their lives, and I want to be an agent of transformation. I want them to know that healthy is a journey, it's a lifestyle. We do a lot of that through nutrition, and a lot of that through mindset changes, healthy habits, everything is a combination. If this is something that you are curious to learn more about, on the table outside, I know Dr. Saguil mentioned that there's a table out there. I have a sign up for a healthy newsletter. I put out a healthy newsletter every week. There's health tips, recipes, things like that. So if you want to be on there, I have a sheet for that. Also, for people that are here today, I will be doing free phone health assessments for anyone that would like one who's here today. I also have a sign up for that out in the hallway, and you can put your name on there, on the list. So just to kind of end, you are all sitting in this room. You have the opportunity to write the next chapter of your life. I know that it is hard, and you are all here for a reason. So if you are one of those people that raised your hand, which most people did, I was sitting where you are 3 years ago, and I was here for a reason too. And maybe that was so I could stand up here today and talk to you, but I want to encourage you to just take the next step in your personal health starting today. Thank you.
Okay, let's, I'm putting this on Facebook Live, so this would be a terrible wipeout if it happens. Dr. Nicole is going to be up in a second. Where's the clicker?
Oh, it's up there. I left it.
Phil, if you can stand up. So usually what happens is when the brain gets a new message, there's other things that come up, like I remember what Julie said, I also remember my butt hurts, or I remember I'm growling, or I remember. So usually good sleep, restorative sleep, cuts out those extra dendrites, all that noise. so that when you bring up the question or the answer tomorrow, it's better off. Sometimes if you can't go to sleep, which I don't want you to do now, you just do a relaxation practice. And those of you who know me, I trained with Andy Weil, and he showed this to a room full of doctors. So all we're going to do is just work with shoulders, right? If you have a shoulder issue, then you can just listen. But what I want you to do is, the shoulders can come up, so mimic me. Shoulders can come back, like in military. And this is a little uncomfortable sometimes, especially if you're not used to working the scapula or rhomboids. And it's uncomfortable, but now let them fall. Up again, really squeeze like your trapezius is cramping. And then hold them back, and then let it go. Now we're gonna link it to breath. Inhale, hold that breath, bring it back. Exhale slowly. Inhale. Hold it, rotate back. Exhale slowly. If you're getting dizzy, you can sit down. Inhale deep. Hold back. Slowly exhale. And do 2 more on your own. Just sit there, make sure you're balanced okay. And just notice how you feel it this right now. Most of you might feel a little dizzy. You can close your eyes if you have to, but most of you might feel a tiny bit dizzy. That's not dizzy, that's actually serotonin. So if we had enough serotonin all day long, you could feel like this all day long, and I didn't give you a pill. I didn't give you a medicine, didn't give you a pill, didn't give you surgery, didn't have you dive into 30 minutes of meditation. I just had you do shoulder rolls. Well, actually, the shoulder rolls were, I'm just trying to fool you with that. You can sit. It's not the shoulder rolls, it's the breath. So out of this, as far as my part of the lecture, know that you can control the stress response with breath. And what better way to introduce Dr. Nicole? Dr. Nicole, I'll have you talk on your own, but I met Dr. Nicole when I started 2015. Heard about her, and then I started sending patients, and then she also teaches yoga, and I'll let you do the rest.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm Dr. Nicole Farley, and I am a licensed clinical psychologist. I've been in private practice for over 20 years in Geneva. I work with all ages. I contract with all insurances, not all insurances, most insurances, including Medicare, and I also do have sliding fee available. I'm also a certified registered yoga teacher. I've been teaching yoga for about 6 years. I teach primarily at Alternative Salt Spa in Geneva, and that's a wonderful healing mecca, if you're not familiar with that. If you want more information about yoga in general, psychology in general, or specifically about my practice, please come see me. And I do have a couple posters outside with also some tea. So I encourage you to pick up a package of tea. There's some healing selections out there. Hopefully they're still out there after the presentation. I want to take a moment to thank Dr. Rick for having set this up and for all that he does, and also for the experts panel to be here, and for you guys to be here, especially with the weather today. And it's really awesome. I mean, look around, the room is so full. So it's great that you're dedicated to increasing your awareness and empowering yourselves to live your best life. So thank you. I'm going to talk a little bit about psychology and yoga and how it can help you. And with that, I'm going to again just highlight the posters outside. I have one poster that my daughter made when she was in elementary school. I often bring it with to talks like this. It was influenced by the work of Dr. Emoto and also Star Wars. So, may the force be with you. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we did, because I think it's really important for implications for us to think about the energy that comes from what we say to ourselves, both out loud and silently, and the power of that. So what we did, we replicated one of his experiments, and we took one batch of rice. We made just one pot of rice, plain white rice, and we had 3 different glass beakers. We put a positive sign on one beaker, and to that beaker, just once a day for a month, either my daughter or myself went into the room and said, I love you, to that rice. I love you. We marked the other glass beaker with a negative sign. And just once a day, again, once a day for a month, I went in there and said to that beaker, I hate you. Hate is a really strong word. The last beaker, we did not have any markings on. We were ignoring that beaker. And sometimes, sadly, we ignore ourselves, our needs. So, I hope that, with that, just even saying that for those of us that do that at times, that maybe we're encouraged to love ourselves a little bit more and not ignore our needs. So, what happened with the rice? The positive rice, after about a month, it remained white. It was still white. It was actually a little bit expansive, like fluffier, and it created this golden liquid that had like a sweet, like almost jasmine type smell. The rice that we said, I hate you to, was green and slimy. It was not nice smelling at all. The rice that we ignored was black and moldy and almost like just non-existent, like sinking into itself. So it's pretty incredible. They were all right next to each other. That's all we did one time a day. So imagine the possibilities and the implications when we mindfully tap into what we're saying to ourselves all day long or out loud, So check out the poster, that's pretty cool. I'm gonna shift gears a little and talk a little bit about yoga and how that can help you ignite your 2020. Dr. Rick helped me with this PowerPoint, so we don't know about some of the formatting, but hopefully it'll come together and make sense. So the word namaste is up there. You may be familiar with people often who do yoga, putting their hands in prayer position and saying namaste, usually as a greeting or a departure, and usually used after classes. So you can see up there, it means that the divine light within me acknowledges, appreciates, and respects the divine light within you. So, namaste. Yoga has the ability to increase our awareness, our mindfulness. It increases relaxation hormones, including serotonin, dopamine, and endorphins, which are all about in how we think, how we feel, how we sleep. So yoga gives us a good balance of those type of hormones. It also decreases stress, blood pressure, and heart rate. We know this from the research, and we also know that yoga helps increase the mind-body-spirit connection. And when we're connected and integrated, we're better off, we're healthier. So I'm going to move through the 8 limbs of yoga kind of quickly, but just to give you an overview. And again, if you're interested in learning more, please seek me out. But the first 2 are yama and niyama, and these have to do with practicing loving kindness to yourself and to others. It's a code of conduct, a code of ethics, if you will. So there's lots of research that supports when we're mindful and loving and kind and all the gratitude work that's out there. So we want to incorporate that and use those benefits to be the best that we can be. The next limb, number 3, is asana, which is the postures and the poses that we do in yoga. Most people are familiar with, when we talk about yoga, they think about the asana. But as you can see, yoga is so much more. But definitely exercise has its place for weight loss and again for overall well-being, and again supported in the research. Pranayama is number 4, and this has to do with life force energy. It's actually our breath. I like to often think that we're breathing in love and light, breathing out love and light. So much research that when we do diaphragmatic breathing, it's activating a branch of our nervous system that makes us more stable, peaceful, healthier. It can help us with sleep, stress reduction, etc. So breath work is good stuff to do. Limb number 5 is Pratyahara, and this is a going within. Yoga often draws from its sister science, Ayurvedic medicine, and in Ayurveda we're looking at the balance between the internal and the external. And so, for example, in the winter, sometimes in Ayurvedic medicine, it's good for most people to start eating like nourishing warm stews, for example, where in the summer, the opposite would be true. So we're looking at that balance. Pranayama, I like to think of it as a turtle, and I sometimes incorporate variations of turtle pose in my yoga class when we're talking about Pranayama, but again, it's that withdrawal. In the winter too, we tend to withdraw more, go within, but we want to maintain a balance of that, and it is good to go within sometimes, but not all the time. An example of Pranayama too, how you could maybe practice is dedicating some time off from screens, for example. It's let me shut down my senses a little bit here so that I can feel better. The next two limbs are dharana and dhyana, and these have to do with concentration and focus. And where we put our focus and attention is where we're putting our focus and attention. So as something to think about, what are you thinking about? Where are you putting your time and energy? Because that is exactly where you're putting yourself. Meditation, we know from the research the value of that and how it helps with overall health and well-being. The last limb of yoga is something called samadhi, and it's blissful enlightenment. It's like a little dose of heaven on earth, if you will. So that's what we're seeking out when we're practicing yoga, and it is a practice. And highlighting that word practice, inviting us all to think about what are we practicing day in and day out, and where are we being consistent with that practice. My classes also incorporate other healing practices to reduce stress and increase mindfulness, including the use of mudras, which are hand gestures, energy sealers. This one might be familiar to you guys. If you have questions about mudras, I will answer those later. I also use chanting and singing bowls in my classes. Research supports the sound healing and vibrational energy and balance that comes from the use of those. In fact, many hospitals across the nation are now incorporating the use of singing bowls in their work with staff and with patients, both. I also use aromatherapy. There's a value in that and stress reduction as well, and a whole range of health benefits that can come from the use of aromatherapy. So I'm going to talk a little bit about psychology. So I'm going to shift my gears here a little bit to that. And when we're talking about psychology, this I'm going to highlight in my practice when I work with people, we're looking at mindfulness. And since we're focusing here today on weight loss, thinking about why you eat, what you eat, how you eat, when you eat, how much are you eating, what does your energy feel like after you eat, before you're eating, etc. Tapping into that so that we can explore patterns and use those to help guide you in a better way. Food definitely is medicine, and we talk about what we're ingesting, what we're taking in, and how we're digesting that. It's beyond food, but definitely let's be aware of what is the food that we're taking in, and how do we digest that? Are we getting the nutrients that we need, and are we taking care of ourselves in a loving, kind way? Beyond food, who are we spending our time with? What kind of music are we listening to? What are we reading? Are we watching TV? How is that impacting us? Pausing and thinking about this, because you're in charge. You're the one that's with you all the time. So what are you ingesting, and how are you digesting that? In my practice, I use research-based methods, including cognitive behavioral therapy, which is used internationally in hospitals treating psych patients, and that came out in the 1970s. I use other research-based methods to help increase awareness of emotional, behavioral, that's how we behave, the actions we take, and cognitive, our thought process, so that we can understand those patterns, process through them, and then understand how to develop a more meaningful and successful approach for you and come up with a good plan there. Research demonstrates the connections between stress, sleep, weight, physical pain, and overall health and well-being. So when you work with me in my office in psychology, we'll take a look at all of that, make an assessment, and come up with some good goal setting so that we can help you with those methods. I have some helpful suggestions in terms of weight loss. One is I invite you to connect with some of the experts here and make your team, and know that you're the most valuable player in that team, but create a team. Be aware of what, when, and how you ingest and digest. Again, just to highlight that, and the mind-body-spirit connection that comes from that. Set achievable goals with objectives, and we can help you with that if you're like struggling on what steps to take to get those goals down on paper and how to apply steps to meet your goals successfully. Hydrate. It's always good for our health, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically. And again, grab some tea out there by my posters if you like. Rest. We need to rest. We need to slow down. It's okay to pause. We have to. In our society, we tend to go so much, but make that balance of rest. Consider meditating, maybe trying to work up from a minute up to 5 minutes daily. The research shows that 5 minutes a day will get you the good results that we're looking for. So, and again, meditation can help with stress management. It lowers your blood pressure. It helps with sleep. There's so many great things that can come from that. Move, stretch, dance, walk, exercise. Find what makes you happy. My daughter's in the back there, and she's a cross-country runner, and I am not a runner. I teach yoga, and she does not really care for yoga that much. Everybody's different. Respect your differences, but find something that you can move, and even if you're just doing some nice stretching every day, or that exercise that Dr. Rick just walked us through. Try to do something every day where you're moving. Have fun. Be mindful. Pause. Breathe deeply. Consider buying food and drinks that support your commitment to yourself and your goals. Consider having an accountability partner, somebody that can help you stay on track. Be kind to yourself and others. Sometimes you might fall off your plan or your path, but forgive yourself and get back on the plan. Be patient, be consistent, and dedicated, and let us help you to do that. Try considering going 2 or 3 weeks eating cleaner, eliminating limiting sugar and processed foods, and see how you feel. When I've done that, and some of my patients have done that, they feel amazing, and so maybe give it a try for yourself and see what you feel like. Get more information. Knowledge is power. That's why it's so great that you guys are here today. Learn more about prebiotics, probiotics, which help us even emotionally. Adding those to our diet, vitamins, minerals, and even the role of inflammation. Inflammation, we tend to think of just how it impacts us physically, but it also impacts us mentally and emotionally as well. Be grateful. There's a lot of research on gratitude work, and I can talk more about that if you're interested later. And I just want to leave with a couple other things. Sharing some research on hugging, I recommend hugging someone today, please, because hugging is good. Scientists say it's one of the best forms of communication. And it's kind of fascinating. They said that we need 4 for survival, 4 hugs a day for survival, 8 for maintenance, and 12 for growth. So if you come to my yoga classes or my office, there are lots of free hugs available. And if you need a hug today, come and see me. Thank you again so much, and I hope that you remember just 2 things, at least from everything that I said, that laughter is good medicine, love is the cure, and may the force be with you. Namaste.
Wait a minute, I don't want to die. Okay, so when Dr. Nicole had I was trying to get all the PowerPoints, and Dr. Nicole asked me to put something together. I was like, I don't know what to do with the PowerPoint, because tech support is always tough. Thank you, Cheryl, for being here. But I just thought, you know what? Old school still works. I think when we were, I don't remember if it was when we were doing this 3 years ago, using the old thing, that overhead projector with the see-through sheet. I mean, that works. The breath I just showed you, that's old school. And there's also new school. I think there's a little bit of need for both. So actually, it's my turn. Dr. Stu, you want to do something?
Do I want to do something?
Anything.
So when Doc was talking about it's important to move, so he actually gave us a movement thing earlier. So one of the things that's essential for life, your life expectancy or mortality, is balance, okay? If you know you have a balance issue, don't try and push yourself. So have everybody stand up, okay? And if you need to hold on to something or someone, do so, okay? So if you can, shift your weight onto one leg, all right, and try and balance. If you start wobbling, okay, then we have a little bit of an issue, okay? All right? If you feel like you're pretty good, try closing your eyes. Yeah. There we go. So again, life expectancy is related to your capacity to be able to do certain things. Balance is one of them. So again, something to practice every single day. Again, like Doctor said, get up and get down. Try and manage being able to communicate with the ground. Can you get on the ground? Can you get up from the ground? If you can't, you need to find somebody that can show you how to do that. So cool. Thanks for that.
So I don't want to bore you with my stuff, but most of you know my stuff. However, my stuff usually changes whenever another patient enters the room. So this is me. I'm a vegetarian eating, intermittent fasting, 5-day fasting limiting diet, cycling, keto, adaptive yoga instructing, 4-7-8 breathing, supplement taking, CBD taking, hiking guy. Thank you. So honestly, this is what I do. And it's mostly for me. Even the hiking guide thing, did anybody come as part of the hiking that I posted? Don't forget the sign in the front. I'm leading a hike to Colorado. And I think that, I don't remember where I first started hiking. It was one of the forest preserves. But I found that in times of stress, if I couldn't figure out how to meditate, I would feel better when I was in nature. I think all of us have that. And you don't have to go deep into Colorado. You can do it at a local forest preserve. You can actually just park your car safely in one of the forest preserves around here and just sit on the front hood of their car and still listen. I think that's the problem that we are overbooked. And a lot of these folks are successful, and they're probably overbooked too, but these guys know that they have to pause. And a lot of my patients, who practices yoga? So those of you who don't practice yoga, it is okay, but I would encourage you to try a class. Most of the classes, I think in the area will offer you your first class for free if you tell them you're a beginner. You just have to call and find out I wouldn't go into a 103 hot yoga class where you're standing upside down. I would just, there's even seated yoga. Meanwhile, do you have seated yoga at Endowment Effect?
We offer yin, which is you never stand up.
Yin yoga. Oh, okay. So there's always going to be some intro, but I think that it does lead to balance, and we are out of balance. In fact, if you don't think that we're out of balance, on your way out, pass by the emergency room. I can guarantee you it's a parking lot that's full. And if you look at the majority of reasons for a visit to the emergency room, high blood pressure, headache, shortness of breath, chest pain, and then usually can't sleep and a couple other things to digest it. And I can base a lot of those on stress response, overbooking. So if you just learn one technique, you take away something. And we probably should have had notes that people can write down. But just when you get out to the tables later on, ask the question. Well, you'll be able to ask them later, but ask questions, remember them. And I probably can't speak for the group, but if you have more questions later, throw them over. Most of us are on Facebook. You can probably find us that way too. But the objective is to fine-tune things. So that really is me. And because I needed this, I tried to get my patients to also experience it, but obviously not everybody here is going to do the same stuff. But it's called integrated medicine. And then I went to see this guy. He looks like Santa Claus, but it's Andy Weil. And he started integrated medicine a long time ago. It's just a branch of medicine where he, after graduating from Harvard, went to different parts of the world to learn about botany and culture. And It's pretty cool, and I think it does work. It works for me, and if it works for me, it works for my patients, and if it works for my patients, even with non-patients, it'll probably work. And it's not, you can't overdose on integrative medicine. So this is my breakfast. So it changes a bit, and it would be good if I can fit this into my nutrition. If you can do it whole food, plant-based, mostly plant-based, for those of you who are not vegetarian, I'm better off. But until you get there, and a lot of people that I see haven't gotten there yet, this is a cheap substitute. I like going to fruitful yield, but you guys can probably make your decisions. I just trust those guys better. I have nothing to do with fruitful yield, but where's my plant? Joe, raise your hand. So Joe is from South Elgin Fruitful Yield. Joe, if you have any questions, you can probably go talk to you later. Maybe? All right. So you should always ask your doctors if it's okay, depending on your medicines. But I think there's cheap ways to feel a little better faster. Eventually, you're supposed to get off of this, use food, and use natural medicine first. So this was one of my first peaks. That's on top of Half Dome in Yosemite, and I just happened to get somebody to take a picture of me, and I don't know why I did that. But Colorado's coming up, so those of you who want to come up with me, Colorado, sign up. Even if you don't make it to Colorado, we're training at Swallowcliff Stairs once a month, and it'll give you a goal. If you don't have a goal, get one. Then most of these coaches will be able to get you a goal if you haven't designed one, or if you're having trouble with your goals. This is why I have everybody here, because we can put goals together that you might not have thought about. I do use CBD, so that's medical cannabis. So I think it's safe. It is a Band-Aid, but a lot less side effects than the other Band-Aids. Compared to Ambien for nighttime, there's dark chocolate, there's gummies, there's tinctures. Smoking, if that's for you, that'd be fine too. Come talk to me and my other plant, Mike. Raise your hand. Mike is from Verilife. Is there anybody from any other dispensaries? No. Mike's from Verilife. You can talk to him later on if you have questions, or you can come to me. But I think this is a great opportunity. And don't just go recreational. I think there's differences. You can talk to me later about that. This is Eddie. Does anybody know Eddie from my Facebook posts? My hikers do. So he came to see me because his wife sent him to me. She wanted him to make a change, and he was okay. He wasn't too far off. That summer, he was hit by a truck, a hit and run. Took off his right leg and crushed his left leg. Wow. And that was terrible. But look at him smiling. I pushed him at the Shamrock Shuffle. And this year, you guys saw, he walked 2 miles. And I started trot when we last trained. If any of you want to go with me to the Colorado thing, I'm going to make him walk this time. We're going to walk the next Shamrock Shuffle. He's got a new prosthetic and everything, but that's amazing. Part of that's the CBD and the THC that he's using because he's getting off the Norco. But the other is, he's got coaches behind him that are propelling him forward. Otherwise, he could easily be a rehab disabled guy that's not watching his kids. That's the 3rd kid in his family, but he's not. He's kicking some butt. So I always think of him every time I'm like at my fibromyalgia flares up. I think, woe is me. And then I think back of this guy. So that's the inspiration I have. And if any of you want to come with me to Shamrock, it's a nice thing. So sign up at the board. Otherwise, that's pretty much me. And you can talk to me later on after the conference. So I want to introduce Dee. Dee, I met you through your daughter, right?
Well, actually, Dr. David Ginsberg.
Yes.
Gave me your information, so I am a patient. And then, not only do I love him, how he treats his patients, how he talks and listens, it's amazing. And that's what I truly needed. I have 18 years of autoimmunity that I've been dealing with since the birth of my first child, Phoebe, who also sees him because we both also experienced some severe problems with Lyme disease, and then she had mono. So she's a healthy and happy college freshman now. So thanks to him, and I refer all of my patients to him. And I just say, you got to go see this guy because he truly listens and truly like works with you as a partner to get to the answer, and that's what I do love. But, okay, so I'm Dee Dee, as he said. I created this program, 30 Days to Feeling Fabulous. It actually kicks off on Monday. I actually was gonna close registration yesterday. I have several hundred people starting it on Monday. But I left registration open today just because I was seeing all of you, and I truly created this program 3 years ago because I was looking myself to reset my health after the holidays. Holidays are hard, we all fall off the wagon a bit, but health is about continually getting back on. Health is a journey, not a destination. We have all heard that quote, and it's so true. So I created this program 3 years ago. It's a community virtual program, and so I'll touch on that a little bit. But first of all, let me tell you a little bit about myself. Dee Dee Marin. I'm a holistic nutritionist, certified culinary nutrition expert. Holistic nutrition is not huge here. I actually got my degree in Canada, where it is very much a part of life there. There's a lot of naturopaths. There's a lot of guys like Dr. Saguil. There's a lot of people like me. So I work with people. If you don't know what a holistic nutritionist is, it's a person that works with people to try and find the root cause of their health problems. I can't treat, cure, or heal, but I do work with people in terms of nutrition, in terms of movement, in terms of stress management, and in terms of getting quality sleep to help them reset their health. And I came about this the hard way, as I said, 18 years of pretty bad, severe autoimmune issues that I've actually, supposedly these are all uncurable diseases. I don't take one medication. I have it for 5 years, and I only show markers for one of the 4. And a few of them were tough: MS, lupus, Raynaud's, and Sjogren's were the ones I was initially diagnosed with. So I can't say I cured, but I've done something myself. So I went back, got my degree. I have an MBA in business, but this is my true passion, and so this is what I do. I look to make people feel just that much better. So what do I feel is at the heart of this health crisis in America? I turned the point, kind of pointed the SAD crap. So SAD stands for Standard American Diet. I don't think I came up with that one. I think I've heard that somewhere. So Standard American Diet full of crap: chemicals, refined sugar, alcohol, and processed foods. So if you think of it, you are what you eat, right? What are we making our cells up of? What are we making our organs up of? What are we making our tissues up of? This stuff is building our bodies literally, and we're filling it full of crap. Speaking of Canada, I have a funny story. My daughters went to school up there, and we've been back about 4 years, but they had this fair, and they went to an international school, 72 countries. And they all brought food for all the countries, and my daughters did not bring this food, but America, guess? Anyone have a guess what they showed for American food?
Pizza, hot dogs,
burgers,
McDonald's and kids. So I was truly not proud, because every time I was going to school, it just kind of made me sad, to be honest. But for years and years, you'd go to your doctor after eating this sad crap, and you'd say, I just don't feel good. I'm gaining weight. Nothing's working. I don't know what to do. And the doctor would say, I've got your solution. Eat less, exercise more. Is that working? Do you think that's working for us? Nope, we're all still miserable and kind of overweight usually. So it obviously doesn't work, and there's a couple reasons it doesn't work. First of all, it's miserable to starve yourself. It is not fun. I like food. I don't want to starve myself. I like to eat really tasty food. And I also don't want to over-exercise. I was an over-exerciser. I was a marathon runner, triathlete, all that stuff. And I do love it. However, a lot of times it's not good for people, especially if they're stuck in this almost adrenal fatigue state that I see a lot of women in, and they're killing themselves in the gym and they're not able to lose the weight. There's metabolic compensation, so their thyroid is turning that thermostat way down. They're holding on to weight. They're colder. They don't burn what they used to, and they're just kind of generally miserable. So none of that is any fun. So what I teach my clients and what I do with my program is we make calories count. We don't count calories. I used to never even give my clients calorie and macronutrient information because I didn't want them getting so wrapped up in it. I do now, just because it created so much extra work for me when they were saying, well, how do I work my FitnessPal, and everybody wants to know. So I do that now, but I still want people to learn intuitively how they should be feeling and feeding their bodies. So what does work? I have a long story about insulin that I don't think I have time for today, and last year my program was all about hormones, in which I still give access to all those YouTube presentations I did last year for this year's program. But what really does work is unprocessing your diet, taking out that crap, especially the processed carbohydrates. Those cookies, cakes, crackers, synthetic foods are just doing us no good. Removing other inflammatory foods. So all of my plans are 100% gluten-free. They're 100% cow dairy-free, 100% processed food-free, and 100% refined sugar-free. All bad oils are removed, and then the top allergens. sensitive to anything, so I can't remove everything. So I work with clients one-on-one if they have very specific needs, like a FODMAP, SIBO, autoimmune diet, anything like that. And I have 6 physicians that I partner with. So my programs have all been approved by physicians. Stay hydrated. I know Dr. Nicole was talking about how important that it is. And it truly is. Like, some clients, it's as easy as I'm like, how much water are you seriously drinking? Like, none? Okay, well, of course you're going to have pains and be fatigued. Drink some water. Half your weight in ounces of water. Controlling stress and cortisol levels. That fight or flight with almost all of us is stuck in that permanent on mode. We have to figure out. Dr. Nicole, I love your speech and your message, because that was me, and I think that definitely led to some of my autoimmune issues. I'm a type A naturally, very high-wired person, and I had to learn the very hard way how to take it down. And yoga and meditation has been a crucial part of my healing. Limiting alcohol and caffeine, keeping your bowels moving, constipation, most of us fight with that, and we're literally reabsorbing our toxins. As disgusting as that sounds, as a nutritionist, I talk about poop all the time. Don't eat 3 hours before bed or right when you wake up. So everyone's heard of lately intermittent fasting. Dr. Rick says he does it, I do it. But I think everyone can at least do 12 hours. And the most important thing for me is that 3 or 4 hours before bed, because your lymphatic, your detoxification systems in your brain and your guts, they're all working and helping you to rest and digest when you're not eating. So at least don't eat 3 to 4 hours before bed if you can control it. Moving outside daily. I'm a big naturalist too. I have to get outside almost every day. It helps me with seasonal affectiveness disorder. Even just getting outside and kind of looking at the sun in the winter. I know it's crappy outside, especially like a day like today, but just breathing a few times outside. Move your body. Don't feel like you have to kill it in the gym if you're not that kind of person, but just move your body. Getting quality restorative sleep, which I tell people, their Netflix nights and desktop days are killing us. Really, we need to make sure we're turning off those phones a couple hours before bed. Reading some nice books, being calming right before we can get restorative sleep. And then purchasing organic and high quality food as budget allows. I follow the European Working Group. If you've ever seen that website, ewg.org, they have a clean 15 and a dirty dozen. If you don't have the money, don't buy organic onions and organic garlic. You don't need to, but heck, yes, you need to buy organic strawberries, organic spinach with the amount of pesticides that are being sprayed on that. And quality protein. You are what your animals eat. So if they're being fed conventional GMO grain, guess what's inflaming your body? That exact same thing if you're if you're a carnivore. So just be careful and mindful of the quality proteins you do consume. So my program, as I said, it starts Monday. People are already going crazy in the Facebook group. I was dealing with messages all morning long, but it's 3rd year. I do have a couple hundred people doing it. And I have a company doing it alongside, because it's just a great way to reset your health, and anyone can do it. It is not a diet program. It is a lifestyle. It's a 28-day meal plan. I have copies outside. You can take a look and see. It's not intimidating. It is all real food. I have 3 choices: keto, paleo, and plant-based. 75-80% of the people choose paleo. Closed Facebook group where you can ask questions, be supported. I post daily. Weekly motivational emails, weekly video tutorials on a salient topic, and then a weekly Facebook Live. It's only $50. I try and do this as a community outreach program that pretty much anyone can afford. So if you want to look at this or talk to me more, we can talk afterwards. I don't want to bore anyone else with it, but it is based on what I call the 4 pillars of health. So I see this, if you flip it upside down, as a table. The first pillar being nutrition, the second pillar being movement, third pillar being stress, fourth pillar being sleep. So you could be eating clean and green, nothing but kale smoothies till the cows come home. And if you're sleeping 3 hours a night, you're stressed to the gills, guess what's going to happen to that table? Like me, falling apart slowly. I always thought I was eating well. It was the stress and sleep and everything else that was kind of messed up. But you got to make sure that table is balanced and everything stays on it. So that's why each one of the weeks I focus on a different topic. This is what it looks like, but you can come up to me afterwards. I do want you to remember, if it doesn't challenge you a bit, it won't change you. But also my mantra for my program, I choose a mantra every year, and you should choose, I agree that, what you're telling yourself matters. So constantly we have that negative message, right, spinning in our head, all of us, switch the message. So anytime I'm coming into something and I'm saying, oh, maybe I'm, imposter syndrome, maybe I shouldn't be doing this, maybe I don't know what I'm doing here. Usually my blanket message to myself is, I got this. I said it when I was walking in here probably 10 times. I've got this. But my big message this year for my program is small shifts equal lifelong impacts. So don't think of it as you're changing everything. Pick one or two things from one of these people. We've all got, you know, great modalities, great practices. Just pick one or two things coming out of today and do them daily, and you're going to have a great 2020. So thank you.
Excellent. So, we're going to hold the questions till the end, unless there's pressing questions. Maritza, I'm going to introduce Maritza to you. Do you want to do a quick something, right?
Sure guys. I'm going to ask you guys a question. So first and foremost, stand up if you've ever found yourself in a 0 to 100 approach with nutrition, only to find yourself falling flat onto your face. Stand up. Has anybody done that to themselves? Have you?
Gone all out.
Have you gone all out, restricted all your favorite foods, gone to the gym 7 days a week for an hour or two? We did that for a month, and then we flat fell on our face. Everybody, yeah, everybody wants to stand up now. Okay, so you don't have to stand up, because I know that it has happened, because I've worked with thousands of people in my career. So my name is Maritza Moreno. I'm a registered dietitian, certified diabetes educator, and I'm an exercise physiologist. Let me see if I can advance here. Uh-oh, where's my slideshow? Anybody? I've been left you. They left me. All right, well, I like to walk around. Can everybody hear me in the back? Okay, because I tend to be very, very soft-spoken, so I'm going to speak up, because I heard a gentleman, or I saw a gentleman shake his head no. So I'm just going to wait until she gets my PowerPoint presentation. And so I do own an in-person facility here in Elgin, but I also do remote coaching. There's my remote coaching company. It's called the Optimized Life Project. And so I work with people nationally as well. And so even though my focus in my expertise is on nutrition and exercise science, I've been asked many, many times, well, what do you do for a living? Like, what makes your approach different than what another person might have me do as far as their nutrition or their exercise? And I tell people, I help people fix funky food relationships, okay? So if you're over the age of 40, you've survived at least a couple years of diet culture in this world, okay? There's been the Atkins, there's been paleo, there's been keto, there's been the zone, there's been South Beach, and yet here we are. We are all not at our goal weights. And that at one point was me. That picture that you see right there on the left, that's the only surviving picture of my existence at 220 plus pounds. You see the difference in my face, correct? I was 19 years old, a brand new mother, and I struggled with binge eating for a big chunk of my life. My parents are Mexican parents. If you are a minority or you're Hispanic or you like Mexican food, you know that the food is not that good for you, but it's very tasty, isn't it? So I grew up in a family where my mom had messed up relationship with food, and she learned that from her mom, who grew up in the Great Depression. What did they tell you to do with your plate in the Great Depression? Clean your plate. So my grandmother taught that to my mom, and she taught that to me, and I was force-fed as a child. So I developed the inability to distinguish my hunger versus my satiety cues. Right? I developed a binge eating, and then later on in high school it turned into bulimia. Yes, I was a compensatory purging bulimic. But when I got pregnant at a young age, you can't do that stuff. So within the last 6 months of my pregnancy, I gained 115 pounds. Wow. That is a funky food relationship. But as you can see, no more than a year later, I lost every single last pound of it, because I decided that I'm not going to have a funky food relationship anymore. And so, one thing that we've known about dieting and nutrition, and we've known this since 1945, we've known that restriction does not work. Whether you're restricting food groups, whether you're restricting a particular macronutrient like protein, like carbs, like fat, we know it doesn't work. In 1945, Ansel Keys, which is a famous researcher, he put several men to starvation. And it wasn't true starvation, it was semi-starvation. They were fed a diet about 1,600 calories per day. These men about 5'9", 5'11". I have met men, grown men, trying to follow a 1,800 calorie a diet. Met many of them. What we learned was not only did they become emaciated, right? We were studying the post-World War II effects on the human body. So we knew they were going to become emaciated. We were trying to figure out how do we rehab these people back to good health, because post-World War II, a lot of people were going to starve. What we also learned was what are the psychological ramifications of restriction. And these gentlemen developed binge eating disorder, not just for the year afterwards, for a decade. These gentlemen were able to eat 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,000 calories a day without satiation. And when they gained the weight back, they gained first body fat before the muscle was replenished that they lost. And so how is this relevant to what we're doing, right? We need to nix the diet mentality in this country. It's not been serving us. Even since 1945, when we knew the ramifications of restriction on the human body and the human psychology, still came Atkins, still came keto, still came paleo, still came all of these other restrictive diets that many of us have probably tried and then failed. Has anybody lost weight and then rebound when they stop doing their diet? Okay, so the act of dieting is hurting us in this country. And when I say diet as a dietitian, I mean what it means, what you habitually eat, not the act of restriction. But in terms of what we know that 80% of research studies demonstrate that people that were actively dieting when they started to observe these people, or people that had a history of dieting, we could predict accurately that they would gain weight going into the future. We know that 67% of American women struggle with overweight or obesity. We know that over 50% of women, according to the CDC, are actively dieting at any time. It's affecting our children, guys. 42% of first through third graders report wanting to be thinner. 81% of 10-year-old girls report being afraid of being fat. 46% of 9 to 11-year-olds report they're sometimes on a diet. And when they're asked, 82% of them said their family members were often or always on a diet. So where do you think they're learning it from? 78% of 17-year-old females are unhappy with their body, and over 50% and a third of teenage boys are actively using restrictive measures to control their weight. So let me talk to you a little bit about the psychology of diet. The psychology of dieting. So say, for example, I told everybody in this room, I have this awesome diet, and as long as you stick to it, I guarantee you can lose however much weight you want, as long as you stick to it. And there's one rule. You can't have chocolate. And this diet starts tomorrow. What are you going to do tonight? You're going to go home and pick up a decadent chocolate cake for dinner. And you're going to top that puppy down, you're going to wash it off with chocolate hot cocoa. And then, if you're like me, you spend the rest of the day thinking about whatever goes good dipped in chocolate, and you're just going to have at it. Right? So this is the destructive dieting cycle. We start a diet, we restrict either our calories or food groups or both. We do have some weight loss in the beginning, and I'll explain this next part in a second. Your food cravings will increase because we are restricting ourselves. Your weight loss then plateaus, and then you're like, it's not working anyway. So at some point you end up overeating or binging, which drives your motivation to wane. You feel guilty, and then you end up regaining the weight, and then that urge to control because you regain the weight, it starts all over again. That's the psychology of dieting. Next, we're going to talk a little bit about the physiology of dieting. What happens to your body as a result of this type of method to control your weight? So this line is going to represent a very important concept. We're going to call it my basal metabolic rate. So this is the bare minimum amount of calories that you need to eat in order just for you to breathe, maintain your body temperature. So if I wanted to maintain my weight, just do a Netflix and chill day, I need at least 1,800 calories. Okay? So what most people try to do when they go on a diet is they'll go on some meal replacement system, or they'll go on some restrictive diet, and they'll cut out, I've seen anywhere from 500 to 800 calories, and I'll meet people trying to eat between 1,000 and 1,300 calories a day. Far too low for most people. And so what happens is that, yeah, you're going to lose weight in the beginning, you're going to lose some water weight, then some muscle, and then if you're able to stay on this diet for a while, then you're going to start losing a more significant amount of fat. However, as you continue to carry on this diet for the long term, as was mentioned by Dee Dee, your thyroid hormone is going to start to plummet. And then your cortisol production, which drives your hunger, and your ghrelin, and your gastric inhibitory peptide that makes your stomach digest faster, they all go up. And then your leptin, your peptin, your cholecystokinin, the things that tell you you're full, they go down. Why would your body go through this trouble? Because your body's number one job is to survive, right? Those ancestors that were able to adapt their metabolism, those are the people that are here to give you your genetics. But this can't last forever, because eventually you're going to get invited to a social event, or you're going to have a hard work day, and we're going to end up in some type of a binge. It could be peer pressure related, it could be stress related, it could be you abuse food for the sake of convenience because you don't organize your life in a way that's in your best interest related. But the fact of the matter is that at some point we try to consume far more than what we've been doing on this diet, and all of that easily sticks to the body in the form of fat. Okay, so over time, you are not only slowing down your metabolism as you lose muscle when you restart this diet, but you're regaining the lost weight in the form of fat, which significantly changes your body composition for the worse. Okay, so in my in-person practice, I use the InBody 570, correlates 98% with DEXA, which is the gold standard for body composition analysis. Now, of the different metrics that it measures visceral fat and body fat percentage, which to date are the most highly predictive of what will happen to you in the future as far as your health. So I'm going to give you some case studies before I close up, just to show you what years, if not decades, of yo-yo dieting have done to some of the people that I've worked with. This is BB. BB is a 49-year-old female. When I met her, this was her in-body scan. As you can see on the right, my machine gives me a really good recommendation on what this person needs to do for their body. So not only did VB need to lose 44 pounds of fat to get her to a state of optimal health, she had to gain 9.5 pounds of muscle. Do you have any idea the level of restricted dieting you have to go through over the years to be that low on your muscle? And so that skeletal mass index right there is 6.3, healthy is at 8.0. She's at risk for osteoporosis. Her body fat percentage, 45.2. She's gonna have a heart attack. African American, high family history, yo-yo dieting, this is what it does to you. AC, 42-year-old female, I put her on the machine. She needs to lose 42.8 pounds of body fat. She needs to replace 5.5 pounds of muscle. Body fat percentage, 45.8. Latina, high risk, all around. LI, recently just started with me. 52.7 pounds of body fat she needs to lose. 4.9 pounds of muscle at a minimum she needs to gain. Years of yo-yo dieting. She isn't older, she's postmenopausal, she does not have her estrogen, she does not absorb calcium sufficiently anymore. And so weak muscles mean what? Weak bones. So my urge to you is, before you go choosing the nutritional method that you are going to subject yourself to lose weight, understand, if somebody were to put this person on a restricted diet, whether they're cutting out carbs, whether they're cutting out fat, whether they're cutting down her calories, do you think that's going to help her body composition in the long term, or do you think that's going to be her detriment? Not everybody practices the way that I do. I'm a scientist, but I'm also a survivor of years of yo-yo dieting and binge eating. So that is my message to you guys. Guys, be very careful with your health. The first tenet of medical care is first do no harm. I practice the same philosophy. Thank you.
That's almost like a testimonial to functional medicine. And so we've gone from old school and to science. And somewhere regular medicine, do we have any doctors here? One. But he's vegetarian. So we've gone from old school to new school. I think there's ways to get in between too, and then practical. I would always also challenge, I totally agree with, if you just cut back on your own because don't have the budget or not interested. You will probably lose initially, but the objective is sustaining all that and not getting too lean on muscle. Because if you just cut back, the first thing you're going to do is eat your muscle. You're going to might eat fat, might eat your muscle, and then you're going to be losing weight on the scale, but losing strength too. And then you're going to eventually crash. Did everybody? How many people did okay with holidays? I did pretty good, and I'm Filipino, so there was a pig that roasted at my brother-in-law's house. So that's pretty good, but it takes a lot of prep for that, and you have to know how to eat, how to survive the stressors, like Dr. Nicole has said. We'll be challenged all the time, even driving home. Hopefully everybody gets home safely, but driving home, I always pick the right lane because there's some crazy people in the left lane. And even if I'm on the right lane, there's usually going to be somebody that kind of, turn back the mirror, don't look, you won't hit me. But it always pops up. Imagine that at night. I think a couple of us have mentioned Netflix. So, does anybody watch The Witcher? No. So it's so addicting to be on Netflix, and there's no potty break. It goes straight into, you hear that, ta-da, and it goes straight into the next episode. It's like, oh, I like the next episode. Before you know it, it's a couple hours. And a couple hours usually means that you just sat there for a couple hours and you just postponed your chores. So I think, again, balance is the message that we should. So great messages so far. I want to introduce Miwa to the microphone. Miwa works next to my office. Those of you who have been to my office in Bartlett, Miwa owns Endowment Effect. It's the big place that, the big gym used to be Walgreens. Fantastic place. So, and I'm probably going to be coaching there or teaching yoga soon. So let's give her a warm hand.
Thank you for that. I don't know, can everyone hear me? I am pretty used to speaking in large rooms. I teach yoga for a few classes a week. So if you don't hear me, I'll go grab the microphone. I want to start off by thanking Dr. Saguil for having me here and thanking all of you for being here this afternoon and participating in your own wellness journey. You came here for a reason. You wanted some answers. You wanted to inquire, and we all know inquiring minds want to know. So I thank you for being here today. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the endorphin effect. Like Dr. Saguil said, we are in Bartlett. This journey has been really personal for me. We opened 3 years ago, and it came about because I was going from place to place to place and looking for movement. At the Endorphin Effect, we believe that movement is what creates and helps us to create that wellness. The more we move, we create these happy, healthy hormones, and that's where the term, the endorphin effect, the name, the endorphin effect came about. When we have this hormone that kind of is created by ourselves within our bodies, what ends up happening is that we are happier, we are more productive, we go out and we contribute to society in a very positive way. And I always say, you always hear the term or the phrase, a picture is worth 1,000 words. Well, I figured maybe a video would be worth 1,000,000. So I'd like to share a little bit of just our video. Let's see here, maybe I can get it started. Oh, let's go back.
Is it slide 2?
Yes.
Let me, hang on a second, I'm going to try and do it from here.
There you go. No, where's the video? Because we had it going just a minute ago when we first started.
It's going to catch now.
Okay, here we go. Okay, there we go. Hi, I'm Laan. I am the founder of the Endorphin Effect here in Bartlett, Illinois. I'm also one of the yoga instructors here. Umberto and I met, we started speaking about how we both had this vision of creating a space where people can come together, gather as a community, and get all their fitness needs under one roof. The Endorphin Effect came from a very personal space, personal endeavors for me. I got tired of
going to a different place for yoga, going to a different place to lift weights, going somewhere else to find a boxing class. And I thought to myself, why wouldn't we have all of these things under one roof, one membership? So I feel like we didn't choose Bartlett, but Bartlett chose us. And 3 individual times and 3 individual people came to us and mentioned this space. And by the time that we came into it and we walked in, we felt like the energy was just right. We drove around and we realized at that point the community really needed a space like this.
So as you can see, we saw many modalities of movement, not just one specific example, such as weightlifting or just yoga or spin or boxing. And it's this movement, this combination of movement that allows us to create optimal health. It engages the mind, it allows the body to function in different ways. And not just like, think about if you're running, you're only going in one direction, but all of a sudden you take up something that allows you to move laterally or allows you to go the other way. And now you're moving backwards through yoga poses. So all of a sudden you become this whole person and you create movement within and create these hormones from within. And that's what the endorphin effect is all about, is allowing you to come in and really becoming the best version of yourself. I'd like to share some of our typical results that are created, that come about from our programming. So this is one of our clients, and she was an avid fitness person, went in and worked out 5 to 6 days a week. That's her before shot over there. And she came in to the endorphin effect, did the same thing, worked out 5 to 6 days a week, but all of a sudden it was with more intention. There was more variety. She was coached and supported through what her movement needed to be, and it wasn't without intention. She wasn't just burning calories. There was a purpose. And all of a sudden she lost that body fat, created lean muscle, which now all of a sudden supported her healthy eating habits, because as we know, the more muscle we have, the more calories that we can intake and still continue to live a nice lean life. This particular member of ours is probably about mid-40s, and to make these kinds of lifestyle changes as we get older becomes more and more difficult. And that's where we kind of thrive and really work well with some of our middle-aged members and creating these healthy lifestyle changes. Another example of one of our members, again, she is close to 50 or right above 50, and as you can see through the picture, through our programming, loss of fat, greater gain lean muscle just through programming. Again, she worked out all the time, hit the gym hard, and we told her to slow down. And that was one of the messages, is that we don't have to go in and be there for 2, 3, 4 hours at a time. We can slow it down, move with purpose. This is one of my favorite success stories. She is 59 years old, and the picture on the right is her son's wedding day, where it should be one of her happiest, a happy occasion. She should be gleaming with joy. It's her firstborn son getting married, and just from the look on her face, you can kind of see how uncomfortable she is. She's not thrilled. She's not, and she says it all the time. I was uncomfortable in my own skin. And just about 18 months later, the vibrancy in her face, it's not just about weight loss. It's the confidence that you create from within. It's those hormones that you create with movement that allow you to then shine and be productive in your everyday life and when you go out and interact with others. And you can see in her face how confident she is, how happy she is, and she is now comfortable in her own skin. And there's nothing that can take away from that. There's nothing that it's just such a proud moment for her. And on top of that, her doctor took her off of her blood pressure medication and her cholesterol medication, just from coming in, personal training, yoga, and making some changes in her diet. Again, 59 years old, those are hard changes to make. This is one of our other members. You can see the fat loss in her midsection. We always know about how that additional fat around the midsection is not great for our organs. That's where disease begins. And to be able to lean out through the abdomen like that is incredible. And again, this is through the programming of just movement and lifestyle changes through diet and getting better sleep, drinking more water, all of those things, making better choices. And that's why we feel like at the Endorphin Effect, you get a well-rounded lifestyle. It's not just you're not just coming in and getting a workout. We are talking to you about movement, and that movement is not just singular. It is creating and putting together a program that allows you to move in different ways to allow your mind, your body, and your soul to function optimally. We are happy to offer our members everything from cutting edge technology. We offer tracking devices so that way you are aware of the body fat that you carry on your body. You are aware of the calories that you are burning. You are aware of how your heart rate is functioning through your movement, but at the same time we have these age-old practices like yoga. And it's the combination of the two that really creates a success for our members. And these are typical results. These are not atypical. These are not our best results. We randomly picked a few, and and we always talk about long lasting. These are not things that, it's not to get into your size 6 or size 8 dress for the holidays. It's about what you can do to live and longevity. I always think about this inverse relationship about as we get older, we all think that our health declines, balance declines, we gain a little bit of weight, we lose a little bit of memory, all of that stuff. But what if we can create a parallel relationship? What if as we age, we just continuously get better? And that's what we thrive for, and that's what we try to achieve at the Endorphin Effect. We have some free class cards, as Dr. Saguil mentioned. We always have an opportunity, and I'd like to kind of share that with you guys. Come out, take a class, see what we're all about, enjoy movement, and have those hormones released within your body and truly feel the endorphin effect.
So Meanwhile brought up a good point that even if you do have your own routine, and all of you would probably hit, well, some of you would probably hit a pretty good level, overtraining is just going to get you injured. So it's important to temper that. Physical therapies here too. Lori is who I use for, can you stand up? Because I always refer to Lori at Streamwood Park District for physical therapy, especially if you have HMO. So sometimes it's a nice dovetail into, thanks Lori, it's a nice dovetail into fine-tuning your exercise routine. If you're apprehensive, like if you have fibro, I have fibro, but luckily it's in remission, but it really hurt to do anything back in 2005. It was probably driven by stress and a bunch of other things. However, I didn't let that stop, and I kept on modifying, pushing, pulling back, resting, pushing, modifying diet, and then I think that things are cool now. So I don't think that if you, even when Dee Dee said she had, there was MS markers, I've seen a couple of my patients, I probably should have mentioned it anyway, but I've seen a couple of my patients turn around, and that's with nutrition. That's not medicine. I don't have any problems with my neurologist, but I've seen a couple of patients that I didn't think it was MS, so I sent them over to infectious disease with Lyme disease. I've seen a couple of patients just modify diet, and all the symptoms went away. So I'm not saying that you should poo-poo medicine, but you can overtrain if you don't get the good guidance. You can also over-medicate if you don't get the good guidance. So just be careful. So I want to introduce our last speaker, Stu. Stu, if you want to do something like it?
Yeah, okay. Let's have everybody stand again.
The other side.
Yeah, we're going to stand on the other one. So we'll check out another aspect that's really important is mobility, okay? So if everybody wants to kind of bend forward, just kind of see where your mobility is, okay? Yeah. So if you can't touch your toes, if you can't reach the ground, that's a consideration. Okay. So all I want you to do, okay, is I want you to open your mouth wide, and without using your teeth, okay, I want you to stick your tongue straight out as far as you can. Straight out, as far as you can. You're going to feel it right in your throat.
I know, that's true.
Okay? All right, so now I want you to try and reach forward again, and then see if you reach a little bit further. Anybody reach further? Yeah. Okay. That is neurology. And with that, now we'll get into some neurology. Stick your tongue out while you move. Can everybody hear me okay? Yeah? Okay. So, Dr. Rick, thank you so much, and glad to be part of this panel of colleagues here. I'm the owner of Paradigm Performance Center. I created this facility because throughout my years of practice, I felt that there was a big gap when athletes were released to go play and when they were actually ready to go play. Oftentimes, the doc's like, oh yeah, you know what, you're ready to go play. And ultimately, I put them up against their physical demands of their sport, and they're nowhere near ready. So what our goal is to fill that gap and make sure that they are ready to meet those demands. A really important thing about our facility is that I want to make sure that we're grounded in a positive and encouraging environment. Like Dr. Nicole said, I mean, it's really important what you think and how you speak and how you care for others. And if you go to see her station there, you'll actually see some of the images in how you talk to water. That's really important. And your body is 70% water. So if you're not having the right kind of mindset, that is going to have an impact on how you rehabilitate, on how you think and how you train, and even how you care for your body, okay? So as Dee Dee presented, she has 4 pillars. We also have 4 pillars, okay? And so one of the most people meet me by way of movement. They see what I do with our athletes, especially our professional athletes, and like, oh, that's really cool, I'm gonna do that. Okay, cool, we'll get you there. But honestly, one of the most important things is mindset. If you don't have the proper mindset or approach and how you're going to be getting into your programming, then that's where you need to find a coach to help you get into that right mindset. Nutrition, obviously we've had our colleagues talk about the appropriate nutritional programs, macronutrients, micronutrients, how do you fuel, when do you fuel? Those are really important. I can't ask you to build me a really nice house if you give me straw. You gotta give me some cement, you gotta give me mortar, you gotta give me brick. So if you have an athlete that's fueling with KFC and pizza and McDonald's, and like, guess what? You're not gonna have a very good training session. Recovery, if you don't rest well, if you don't sleep well, if you don't check your heart rate variability, if you're not monitoring how well you recover after hitting your max heart rate, you're not gonna be able to train well again at your next session, okay? But what I'm going to focus on is movement, but more from a rehabilitative standpoint, okay? Unfortunately, I'm sorry, I'm the bearer of bad news. There is no magic pill. We're constantly seeking it. You know, there's constantly things on ads and videos saying, I've got this pill and you're going to drop the weight, and you see all these things on Facebook. You drop something in this bucket, and all of a sudden all this fat melts away. It doesn't happen. Even though they make it happen in a little flask, I'm sorry, it doesn't. But fortunately, what we can do is offer the science of hope. And that science of hope is through the science of neurology. If you can agree with me, the brain controls everything. And we'll get into a little bit of that more later, okay? And so ultimately, when you move, you have to be efficient. You have to be effective. You must be precise, especially with the athletes that we work with. Prevention, and the helps with prevention of injuries, and then longevity of your career. Your career being living as a human being, okay? So you may be saying, oh, you know what, this guy's a sports medicine guy, why is he talking to me, you know? But ultimately, if you have a body, you are an athlete. You are responsible for your movement. Okay. Unfortunately, this is kind of our lifestyle. Okay? And yes, I do love bacon occasionally. Probably how we watch our Netflix. Okay. And sometimes if we're too lazy to get up from watching Netflix, we create these little things that allow us to eat our food and just kind of hang. But this is ultimately what we would encourage, the kind of activity to age gracefully. So there is a fountain of youth. And the fountain of youth comes from knowledge. Okay. So ultimately, why do we have brains? Does anybody know why we have a brain? Yeah, most people are saying, oh, well, to think, to make decisions. Ultimately, that's really not the case. We really have a brain for only one reason, and that's to produce adaptable, complex movement. Okay, and that's been proven time and time again. Dr. Daniel Wolpert is a neuroscientist at Columbia Medical Center. This is our friend, the sea squirt. Okay, one of the most basic organisms, lives in the ocean. Okay, in its beginning part of life, the sea squirt floats around through the ocean, collecting nutrients. Eventually, it's going to implant itself on coral or somewhere. Okay, and the very first thing it does when it implants itself is it digests its own brain, because it doesn't have to move anymore. All it has to do is sit there and wave around and collect things. Things are going to float into the tube, and all it has to do is eat, right? So back to this slide, all we have to do is implant ourselves and digest our brain, because we don't have to move anymore, okay? So, but ultimately, that is probably one of the most important things that we have to recognize, that we have to learn how to move well, okay? All right, so our rules, paramount rules at our facility is, first, move better, okay? Then you can make the commitment to move more. You don't come in and you say, oh, Stu told me to do 3 reps at 20, right? Or 3 sets at 20, and I'm just gonna do them. Because if that first push-up or that first squat looked absolutely horrible, why would I have you do more of it, right? Same thing, one of the basic functions we'll get into later is walking. If I walked around all day like this, it doesn't matter how many times I massage you, adjust you, stick you with needles, I can wave a wand over you. You may feel great getting off the table, but if I let you walk out the door and you're like, see you later, doc, right? Guess what? You're still going to hurt because you're not changing the way you move. So the quality of movement is extremely important, okay? So in my last practice, I was a director for pain management. I did that for 4.5 years. For lack of a better explanation, the majority of my clients relied on Medicare for my treatments, okay? We guided them through injections, surgical procedures, diagnostic measures, you name it. And my aha moment came when, hey, doc, guess what? I got pain here, and I got pain here. And I basically say, hey, can you do this? And they look at me like, you're absolutely nuts. It's like, did I just tell you my back hurts, my knee hurts, right? So typically the thought process is, I can't do that because of all these aches and pains. It's the reverse. You have all these pains because you cannot do that. So our roles as coaches is to make sure that you can do those things, okay? So, primal movement patterns, there are 7. Gait, walking, okay? Squat, a lunge looks like this, okay? A bend, bending forward, hence we just did that, and I made you bend a little bit further, some of you bend a little bit further by sticking your tongue out, right? A push, a pull, and then rotation. All of my athletes must satisfy these as well, okay? So our basic rule of thumb for rehabilitation is I'm going to evaluate each one of these movements and see where you can successfully navigate these. If you can't, I have to regress it to the point where you can actually do it well. If you can't walk, maybe I need to teach you how to crawl again, okay? If you can't squat all the way down this way, maybe I need to have you hold on to something and get you down to that point. Because again, if I don't teach you, right, this is where our tenant comes in, it's my fault, not your fault, right? You've been allowed to regress your movements throughout life, and unfortunately, back to the C squirt, you've digested your own brain, okay? So, ironically, I did pediatrics for 3 years too. I've been in practice for a while. So I did pediatrics for 3 years. So, when you're looking at developmental milestones, of the physical developmental milestones for pediatrics, which pediatricians are adamant about, these are those. And guess what we can't do as adults, right? Can't do them. So you have to find somebody that will allow you to get there. And it may incorporate having the right mindset, changing your nutrition, getting moving properly, moving more. But again, move better first, okay? So for our athletes, I changed it up a little bit. Our athletes, I tell them, you have the obligation to maintain your health. You either got a scholarship or you've got a contract, okay? Some of my guys sign for millions of dollars. They are responsible for their own body, and the club owns them. They don't even have rights to some of the things they do. So they have the responsibility to maintain their health. I changed it for you guys. As a human, you have the responsibility to keep yourself healthy, okay? Yes, doc, the dietitians, the movement specialists, we can help guide you, but if you don't participate, right, and you don't really put all in, right, then ultimately it's not going to be to your benefit. Like the dietitian said, it's like we can make the recommendations, or you can go on her meal plan, but if at night you're like, oh, well, I'm going to have a couple pieces of chocolate, or I'm going to do this, you're not hurting us, you're hurting yourself, okay? So, in finishing, okay, first, move better, because it's going to nurture your brain, okay? That will help you feel more confident about your body and your movement capacity, okay? Activate your brain. That improves your memory and cognitive function. Contrary to popular belief, it's not crossword puzzles and Sudoku puzzles. It's actually moving better, balancing, hand-eye coordination, foot-eye coordination. Can you actually get up and off the ground, okay? And ultimately, because your brain is working better, you're going to make better lifestyle choices. Okay? So, hashtag consistency. Because if you do it one day, if you lift weights, you're not going to get bigger biceps, you're not going to get stronger muscles in one lift. You have to do it over time consistently. Okay? So, and thank you for your time.
Okay, so that's a good team. I would encourage you to, we're going to do a Q&A just to see if anybody has any issues, or if you don't mind telling everybody, just putting your questions out, we can answer them. There's always going to be another answer. So Cheryl's going to come around with the mic. Does anybody have any questions? We have a team of people, so, and I also have Dr. Garg is in the back. He is a friend of mine, Dr. Garg. So plant-based, totally plant-based. And if you, so I'm vegetarian. Are you vegetarian or vegan? Vegan. So you have some information from us. You want to come up?
Oh, Dr. Garg.
And who's got the question?
I do.
Oh, yes, sir.
Thank you for putting this program on. Thanks for the panelists for being here. I actually have been doing some research, and for the right diet, if that's the right word, but not to lose weight, not to reproportion my body fat to muscle ratio, but to feel better, to get rid of brain fog, to reduce inflammation, to have more energy. And I fell upon the bulletproof diet, which I started, and I don't know if it's placebo or if it's real, but within about 10 days of doing it, I feel a lot better. It's interesting how I have lost some body fat. I wasn't even trying to. So I wanted to know what you guys, with the dietitians or even the functional people, think about that, if you want to call it a diet. The Dave Asprey's philosophy. Thank you.
Whoever wants to.
Who wants to take the question?
I'm currently reading his new book, Superhuman. Have you read that?
This is my first.
Okay, yeah, he does love himself, is one thing I'll say. You know, I have to say everyone is different. And I've tried every diet, and not for weight loss or anything, but just to make sure that I understand the pros and cons of what my clients want to do and what I work with them with. And that diet specifically, and the keto-ish diets, I see a lot of fantastic results, and I'm just going to talk anecdotally about my clients. Fantastic results with men. Fantastic results with people in terms of if they're in a medical crisis, like almost about to go on diabetic medication and really struggling, and they go on the keto diet as a reset. I've seen fantastic results there. I've also seen it crush some women between 40 and 60 or who are going through, low thyroid, adrenal fatigue, because it stresses them out. It puts their cortisol those things. But I do have people that try it and they have good results, but I do always say, you gotta watch your hormones. You gotta constantly see how you're feeling, so you're not gonna risk your health. Like, you know, you're probably in a great position in terms of you're not overweight, you didn't need to do weight loss, you're probably in pretty good shape to begin with. So for you, that could be a great solution, but anyone else wanting to go through an extreme diet, which I do kind of see keto as extreme for a lot of people, I definitely suggest you get a lot of blood markers done. There's specific inflammatory markers you can have done. There's specific things to make sure that you can metabolize fat well and that you aren't putting yourself at risk of future heart disease. So I think it does work great for people. You know, a lot of people say they have more energy on keto. They're not less hungry. There's a lot of advantages to like a bulletproof type diet. But I do think it's one of those things where you just have to really listen to your body and be careful and work with a practitioner to make sure you're doing the best thing long term.
So when people talk, I listen with intention. And before actually I go on, I'm just gonna fist bump my doctor over here. I'm also plant-based. What's up? So you said something that interested me. You said that you don't necessarily have any goals, right? And I think that is very dangerous because.
Well, my goal is to feel better.
Okay, your goal is to feel better, but I'm part scientist, right? So I like data. So I like people to be able to quantify their goals somehow, some way. Because feeling better or even staying healthy, we all could have different acceptable levels of health. But what exactly are you looking for? So that particular diet, what we know is that because it alters your hormones, it sets the stage for fairly rapid muscle loss, right? It takes a while for the body to adapt, to be able to preserve your protein stores. You look like a fairly slender man. And so my caution would be, okay, what is this going to do to your body composition long term? Because we all know the older that we get, the more at risk we are for things like osteopenia or osteoporosis. And then, as was mentioned by our last speaker, the number one reasons why people end up in an emergency room is an accidental fall, especially in old age. When I first became a clinical dietitian, believe it or not, I used to work here back in the day, but when I became a clinical dietitian, I worked on a rehabilitation unit, and I would care for people that were status post-stroke, or they had broken a femur or fractured a pelvis. And what I can tell you is that if that happens, right, if we allow our body composition to get into a situation where it can no longer support our simple functionality, we live in Chicago, there's black ice, you slip and fall, and you break a pelvis, or you fracture a femur. Not only is it the most dangerous thing, because you have major arteries that run along those bones, but the mortality rate after something like that is like 70-80% within 5 years. People lose their will to live. And so I'm always looking for people's long-term health, not only metabolically, because genetically we're all different. Some people can function better metabolically at a lower carbohydrate range. I still don't agree with the keto, it's a very extreme. Some people function better, like myself, on a higher carbohydrate range. But that being said, when you follow a keto type diet, what we know is that muscle will start to infiltrate the muscles, especially if you're doing what I call dirty keto, right? There are people that do plant-based keto, very different outcome in what happens in the body, but we see people develop insulin resistance. It's just a metabolic adaptation to a high-fat diet. And so knowing in the weight loss research that keto is the hardest to maintain long-term, right? People come on and off, on and off, on and off. So there's been research where they'll take perfectly healthy men, and I'm not sure, I can't remember which researcher was the main researcher on this study that I read. They took 20 perfectly healthy men that had been measured, no psychological issues, no metabolic issues, and they subjected them. It was a crossover study. So they followed their markers at a normal diet, and then they put them on a keto diet for 2 weeks. Just 2 weeks on a keto diet, it increased their fasting blood sugar and their tolerance to a high carbohydrate meal, their blood sugar skyrocketed. Mind you, none of these people had prediabetes or diabetes when the study started. It's just because of the metabolic adaptations that happen when you're on a keto diet. So if you're on one of the most unsustainable diets known to man, and you're constantly coming on and off, that is the perfect storm to set yourself up for diabetes. We've seen in studies such as NHANES and the Nurses' Health Study, people that have followed some type of low-carb diet in their history, those are the ones who are most susceptible to type 2 diabetes.
So the other thing to note is I've had a few patients go keto, and very few. Even paleo, which was big ticket item before keto, which is for
for those who don't know, paleo is trying to get most of your macronutrients as protein and meats. It came from Paleolithic times supposedly, but I don't know if I agree with that. And then keto is mostly fat. And so there is a clinic in Indiana. Stephen Finney used to do a lot of research with endurance athletes. He's a cyclist himself, so he started guiding some of the athletes he saw into a well-modified and well-formulated ketogenic diet. But again, practically speaking, unless you're with Stephen Finney and I forgot who else is running the clinic, it's difficult. It might flare up IBS. I think that if you, the few people that I've had do full keto have done well with weight loss, which overall, if you lose weight, but your markers of cholesterol go up, you have to be careful. Markers of cholesterol, usually when you melt the weight off, the cholesterol gets mobilized and your cholesterol goes higher. So that could really freak out your doctors or your cardiologist. If you have a heart disease issue, you got to be careful. So it is tough to maintain. You got to get those markers beforehand and then during. I've done fasting mimicking diet, which is a 5-day fast, and I've been able to drop insulin levels pretty low and been able to crank up on beta-hydroxybutyrate. That's the measurement that you do when you're doing keto. And I don't really trust the urine. I don't know if you're doing urine strips or how deep you're into it.
No, I'm not really into it.
Oh, you're just taking a day after?
I'm not strict. I mean, it's just, I'm maybe 50%.
I think that's fine. The concept is kind of cool. You decrease your appetite, you suppress appetite because you just have an overwhelming amount of fat or triglycerides. But you have to be careful. So I agree. I would be careful, cautious, and do numbers before if you're going to jump in. And you need probably one of us. You can probably find or follow Dave Asprey's stuff, and there's a lot of other full keto protocols, but just be careful.
Rick, I have a question.
Yes.
And I have a mic. How long after you finish a diet like keto that potentially increases or mobilizes the cholesterol, how long do you need to wait to get a blood test that will really show a true marker for that?
So I've seen elevations come up in about 3 months. It usually, when you see the waistline and the BMI go down, you assume it's because of fat mobilizing, but as Maritza said, probably losing protein too. So if you don't move and you're just losing weight, not necessarily the healthiest thing. So I would be doing a marker just to make sure you're safe. I usually, as long as we don't have heart disease and there is a little bit of a cholesterol elevation, I wait about a year before I repeat, just because most people bonk out or tap out before then. If you're successful enough, then fine, but usually after you mobilize those fat stores and you balance out, and then you plateau, then the cholesterol theoretically should drop a bit. That's, again, theory.
I'm going to switch mics. This one.
My wife is going to be mad at me for telling you.
It's not a good way to start.
3 years and 9 months training in nutrition and quit. Because we went around to every nutritionist in Park Ridge and nearby Des Plaines and whatnot, and none of them were happy. They're all frustrated, no one listens to them. The bosses argue with them, people won't eat that, get out of here, and so on. So she's quit. Went back to college to study something else. She's a genius. She's really a genius, I'm sure. Now, I used to be 212 pounds, and I lost 70.
Would you mind standing up just to show everybody? 212 pounds?
I lost 70 pounds because she put me on a plant-based diet. No, wait a minute. Wait, she actually, we were more on a vegetarian diet because we would eat, I'm telling you, I gotta have meatball once in a while. Not now. I don't eat any meat whatsoever. We are now, for about 3 years, following Dr. Esselstyn, the chief cardiologist in Connect Clinic. If it has a mother or a face, don't eat it. And he says 3 things you gotta remember. 1, no oil. 2, no oil. 3, no oil. got me on that. Yet, 2 years ago I had a heart attack. They're wheeling me into the hospital, and the doctor, cardiologist, is going to put stents in me. He's running up towards me. He says, Mr. Ferrari, I want you to know you did not earn this heart attack. I know how you eat. I know all the exercise you get. I know you ride your bike, you swim, you tap dance, you ballroom dance, you know everything. He says, I said, if I'm so hot, I'm going to get a heart attack. He says, heredity. I said, well, on my father's side, we're Sicilian. There's nobody in our family who's ever even heard of heart attack. They don't even know what a heart attack is. Okay? They live to like 90, you know. But on my mother's side, I'm Polish. And I said, is it possible to look Sicilian on the outside but be Polish on the inside? He says, yeah. I said, then that's it. Okay? Because a couple of Polish uncles died of heart attack. Now, here's the thing. When we watch, every day that we have lunch, we put on our computer, internet, and we watch Ornish, we watch Sasselson. Every one of them says that we not only have to eat organic, 100%, and if you can't find organic, eat less. Buy something organic and eat a little bit of it. If you want to live, you don't want to live, no, it's up to you. This is what we've been following. But it's really difficult to find a doctor that's close by us. We're in Huntley, Sun City. I mean, you go to a doctor, and all we get is, you'll never find a doctor like that around here. You know.
Right there.
It's right there.
That's why we're here, to see what you guys are all about. Okay? That's all I wanted to say. But you did mention organic food.
Yes.
Yes. And except that we don't want any glyphosate on our food. Or in it. No Roundup in our food.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gluten-free products do not indicate that they're organic. You have no idea when you go to gluten-free whether you're really avoiding a hazard. And you notice the lady from Canada? Up in Canada, they think a little differently because they do have single payer. And Dean Ornish tried to bring this in Illinois and have people who are on plant-based diet be given certain things. But we have a politics here, a political party who's running the country, and if it's more important to eat gluten-free with Roundup, that's what you're going to get. People are voting for people in office that are promoting things that in Canada you cannot do, and in certain parts of Europe you cannot do. And here, I go to the store and go crazy trying to find Woodman's. Maybe sometimes I can get some good things there, but it is in the winter. According to Dr. Furman and some of these doctors in the Summit talk on television recently, they use frozen food. Well, yeah, you can get some frozen organic things, but it's not really ideal. I do all the cooking, I roast it, I do everything, and I hear all my neighbors talking about the $23,000 a month because they have, a product their teeth have to totally be done, or they have cancer. I know people who are having their legs removed, and they'd rather do that than eat a plant-based diet. And that's why the politics here in Huntley is very difficult to find what we're looking for.
There is one cardiologist that is plant-based at Sherman Hospital. Abbas Ramperwala.
Who?
Abbas Ramperwala. He calls himself Dr. R. ABBASRAMPURWALA. So there is the option of plant-based cardiologist for anyone who wants an opinion or second opinion. But bottom line is that plant-based diet is the Swiss Army knife of lifestyles because it not only helps you, but it helps the environment, it saves animals. But not only that, but it is the only plan, there's no other plan shown to reverse cancer and heart disease in clinical studies. In fact, when I went to medical school, class of '99 at Northwestern, this was one of the first lessons, believe it or not, at Northwestern in the mid-90s, that plant-based diet can reverse heart disease and cancer. So we were actually required to read the Ornish papers, and I actually had a chance to watch the Ornish documentary from 1991, Nova on PBS, remember that show? So then we kind of forgot about it. And being vegetarian all my life, I started eating chicken wings in medical school. That's just how it went, but just know the foundations are there. It's been there for a long time. And this plan is not just for weight loss, but for all purposes, and for health, truly health, yes. Thank you.
Other questions?
Can you just explain the body mass index and how it predicts health status?
So, oh, excuse me, whoa, this little thing, Howard, it's a bunch over here. So the body mass index assumes one thing, all right? And this is why a lot of people will argue about the body mass index. It's very different from body fat percentage, and I'll go ahead and I'll explain both. So body mass index is just a mathematical equation that compares your height to your weight, right? So if you carry your excess weight in the form of fat, the body mass index is very predictive of your future health. Now, being applied to an athlete, they do not carry the extra weight on their body in the form of fat, so the body mass index has limited applicability to being able to predict whether or not they're going to get sick as they get older. Now, the body fat percentage, that again is the ratio between how much of your body is muscle versus bone versus water versus body fat. Especially I'm concerned with the amount of fat in the visceral area, which is why that machine I love, it measures your visceral fat. Of the 3 case studies that I presented, each of them were at a 17 to a 19 as far as their visceral fat. InBody, the company that made my machine, they recommend below 10, especially if you have high health risks, right? So those ladies were very, very high risk, especially because most of them were minorities and they had a family history. Now, body mass index, again, it's got its limitations, but again, if you're one of those people that you carry your excess weight and fat, it is very applicable. So that's why I tell people, don't really listen to people when they say the BMI is garbage. If you fit the mold for what it was created to measure, it is very highly predictive. As far as your body fat percentage, in both of those examples, their body fat percentage was near 50% because, again, they had low muscle tone. If you analyze those analyses closer, you'll see, especially in their lower extremities, they only had 80 to 85% the muscle that they should have had on those limbs, right? So if they were one of those people, like I said, that step on black ice, they're high risk for a slip and fall, they're high risk for a break. And so it really is all about setting yourself up not only for good metabolic health, which muscle will protect you from, because muscle consumes a lot of sugar. Muscle will help you, it helps you burn through fat during an effective workout, and it will also help you to prevent chronic disease because it speeds up your metabolism. And so that's the limited applicability to BMI. Did I answer your question?
You did. Thank you very much.
Remember, it's just a measure. So just like those markers of blood testing, and or BMI, and or weight, when you have a scale, or what's it called? The thing that you do, the measurement?
The InBody 570.
InBody 570. I've gone to Rockford, Ortho, Illinois to get a DEXA scan just to kind of look at my body fat. I'm going to be doing it again in June to see if it is cranked over into my hole. But they're just numbers. But if you don't do the numbers, and then you just dig in and cut everything out and try to meditate in 100 hours a week, if you don't feel good, it's not going to be sustainable. So whether you do the Ornish vegetarian low fat, or whether you do paleo keto, whether you do intermittent fasting, whether you do FMD, whether you do, it really, you have to be able to sustain it. So my usual thing is, no matter what you do, take measures beforehand, try to prepare for the daisy chain of the next event, the next thing. We always get stagnant, and it's nice to have another activity, or another nutrition plan, or another level of fitness introduced at a later date. And if you want to climb 14,000 feet, come with me on. Other questions?
And bring your Diamox.
Right, Diamox and aphrodisiacs medicines. Other questions? Just raise your hand. We will be in the back. Oh, yes.
steps today.
I guess my question would be, what would you guys recommend for someone who struggles with like mental health, or they can't jumpstart their system in the sense that either they're too depressed or they have like a lot of attention issues? Is there anything that you would recommend for them to focus on first?
I'm going to have Dr. Rick for this one. I'm sorry, repeat that question. My hearing is just not as good right now.
So the question was whether, if there's something to suggest for somebody that's struggling with mental health before making a lifestyle change.
Struggling with mental health? Well, come see me. Or another provider. You know, that's a good place to start. You know, and I think that's the answer there. Like, get work with somebody. I don't know if you already are, but find somebody, a professional that you can start there when we're talking about mental health issues, because you know, you need to work carefully and have a specific plan to help you be the best you that you can be.
I guess my main question was, should they even try to focus on the physical aspect, or should they just look for someone like with you that focuses on the mental side?
Well, it's all connected, mind, body, spirit, and I think it depends on the specifics and the degree of severity and intensity, but starting with, if you're talking specifically about a mental emotional health issue, I think, you know, you can start anywhere, but the best place to start is with a professional that would help you specifically with mental health and emotional issues. Again, but it's all connected. You know, we all spoke, there's an overlap with each of these experts, and a lot of research shows, like, you know, movement is crucial, your sleep, your physical health, your nutritional intake. You know, these are all important concepts. And just the fact, I don't know if this question is for you specifically, but just the fact that if it is, that you're here today, you know, and you're taking in this information, bravo, that's a great start for you. You know, there's a lot of good information for you.
I just real quick wanted to give a plug for Dr. Saguil, because an integrative health doctor is the best start for mental health issues as well, because there's a lot of modalities we can use for mental health, including mindfulness, plant-based diet, herbal treatments, movement, all of those things. I think it's an important part, not just in mental health plus integrative medicine.
I would definitely agree. What we know from the mental health research as it pertains to how physical activity and nutrition intersect is that we know whether you have schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, major depressive disorder, anxiety, OCD, there's a very, very strong correlation with poor nutrition and self-care habits. We know that to be a fact. Now, which came first, the chicken or the egg? We don't know. But what we do know is that while medications to treat mental health can be life-saving, and if you're in that position where you don't trust yourself, you don't trust your emotions, you don't trust the direction where your mind is going, you do need to, you know, embrace those prescriptions for at least the short term, but you do need to participate in cognitive behavioral therapy. You do need to participate in group therapy if that's the thing that's going to help you overcome what you're going through. But long term, we know that these medications have limited effectiveness. Some of them, if you stay on them long term, not only will you have to increase the dosages over time, but they will lose their effectiveness completely, maybe exacerbating future health conditions. And so you ask which one should you focus on, that's a really tough question to answer. First, if you're suicidal or if you are in a really bad place, please see your doctor and get on some medication that can stabilize you. Then your next step would be to see a psychologist, a clinical psychologist who works with people in mental health issues, and then collaborating with that team and trying to get your nutrition and your fitness on point, because again, we'll never be able to fix the mind if the body is not well.
So one thing too, food is mood, and you can eat certain foods and feel lousy. Not exactly right after you eat those foods, because a bag of, for me it's potato chips. A bag of potato chips, which is my enemy, will make me feel good when it's going down, but I will feel guilt and bloat afterward. Then I have to work twice as hard. So it almost sets up for a bad relationship between food and exercise. So you can turn on mood or improve mood with exercise. You can improve mood with food. But as we mentioned, depending on how severe the symptoms are, you'll have to do a Band-Aid. And sometimes you'll need a big Band-Aid. And there's, I've been on Zoloft before, I don't have a problem with that. Side effects galore. And sometimes you need a small Band-Aid, 5-HTP. Sometimes you can even take advantage of ashwagandha or rhodiola. So, but again, that's where you really have to see one of us. Don't do it on your own. This is for anybody. And you can, I have the opposite too. I have, and probably coach too, I have elite athletes that come in and they are exercising the heck out of their lives, almost to the where it makes them feel good, but to the point where they're now withdrawing from family time. And you need to be around for your kids, you have to be around for dinner time to make valuable the dinner plate and the time of feasting. So, but they're driven to perform Ironman or hundreds or any endurance activity. So it can swing both ways. But that's why you have to temper it. Again, balance is the most important thing. Other questions? You can always. Hey, Tess.
All right. This is maybe a kind of personal question directed towards you, Dr. Saguil. Yeah, it's coming from me. So anyway, I saw your Ignite Your Life thing a while ago and signed up for that right away. And you were the one who kind of inspired me about hiking, and I found that I like hiking and I'm passionate about that, and I came for that. But it's great to have all the information, and most of us probably read so much about it and know parts of all of this. And to be passionate enough to use it and use it correctly, it is something also you have to find your own. Everyone's different. Not one thing is going to work for the mass. And that's why I don't believe in a lot of the pill forms. You know, here it is, going to work for you. And when you live old enough, long enough, like I have, so you have experienced everything. But going back to that, you're the one who I felt comfortable enough to coming to 4 years ago after my husband had a heart attack. And I'm like, okay, I guess high cholesterol, I better go see a doctor. But I came in to see you and I'm gonna say, okay, he's gonna tell me to take statin, which surprisingly he did not. And he gave me things to take care of. And going back to, I'm pretty selfish now, you telling all this and giving us all the information, then you telling me that you're gonna leave in 2 days. I mean, this is really not working out for me. There it is.
We had that question too, by the way. We were going to wait and ask you privately.
It's a riot. We're going to start now.
Got it.
Well, okay. Well, I appreciate that, Tess. So I think most of us have gone through what we do now because of how we have found the benefit. And it is a arduous journey. And I think that you can see the enthusiasm here. So I don't want to turn this into why am I leaving or why am I going to take a break. But I am going to take a break. So I guess no, but now the bomb drops. But but here, this is because I have to listen to my own cues, and I wasn't listening to them. So if you have an episode of stress, I mentioned driving before. So if you drive in Chicago, it's about 25 minutes to an hour to work and 25 minutes to an hour back from work, and those are peak times for most of us. And that's 25 to 60 minutes of stress response in most cases, even if you're listening to Wayne Dyer or something that's peaceful. So that alone will make your cholesterol sticky. So even if you have a low cholesterol, it'll still be sticky. So if you have a high cholesterol, it'll be sticky and you'll need a stent, even if you're a vegetarian. So you can see that it has to be a well-balanced kind of life. And that's why I have to kind of listen to myself and take a break for a while, because I wasn't balanced. I thought I was, but I will tell you that when an orthopedic, or, and don't call yourself out now, but when I heard an oral surgeon say symptoms of burnout, I took his symptoms, and we haven't even met yet, and again, don't call yourself out yet. But we haven't even met, but I thought, okay, I agree. Wait a minute, that's me. And then, so, the camera always, in selfies, the camera always turns around. But honestly, the camera, I had to readjust again. So this happened about, again, most of us have gone through a drastic change. And then we say, wait a minute, something wakes us up. And hopefully, a stent will not wake you up again, but you know you have work to do. And I usually say when you have your first stent, it's 6 years before your next stent, unless you make a major lifestyle change. And you're doing great. Low-fat, plant-based Ornish, that's tough. But if you can maintain cool, but it takes balance too. It also takes relaxation practice. It also takes exercise, mobility. So if one of those teases off, then you have to step off and get some coaching. And that's my coach. So Dr. Nicole Farley is my coach for a while. And just because I think I need the balance. So I hope that answers your question. But not only do I put these folks together because I want everybody else to be successful, I'm probably going to visit all these guys one at a time just to make myself well balanced before I turn 60. So that's the challenge. Even if you guys are okay and balanced, next decade's coming up. And with the next decade comes the milestones of change. And if you act like a standard American diet eater, you will have the standard American diet diseases. And they won't kill you suddenly. They'll maim you. Stent, MS medicines, IBS medicines, obesity, GI. Now, all my colleagues are great. So if you have to go visit somebody, I think it's reasonable. But once you get the diagnosis and once you get a medical problem honed down and controlled, break free. Do something else too. Medical insurance, and I hear that a lot too. I can't go to Maritza because I can't afford it, or I can't do this because it's too expensive. Medical insurance is disease management. Coming out of your pocket is going to be disease reversal. So there is I understand about the difficulty with affordability, but it's worth it. So you just have to find somebody, a coach, to kind of fine-tune that plan. So hopefully that answers your question. Okay.
So I have to kind of piggyback after what Dr. Rich said, and I wanted to say it when you were talking, but I forgot to say it. I have experienced healthcare provider burnout. I used to work for this hospital, I worked for Loyola, I worked for Presence Health, and I was not able to do a lot of the things for people that I'm able to do working in private practice, but burnout is real. There was this very interesting study on rhesus monkeys a while back. I can't remember what year it is. I'm a big PubMed junkie, so that's what I do on Saturdays. I download PubMed and read it. So in this study of rhesus monkeys, which share a lot of genetics with us, they were all included in the same environment. They were all fed the same exact vegetarian diet that's natural to them. The only difference was one set of male monkeys were alpha and the others were not. And when they sacrificed the animals at the end of the study, mind you, every other factor was controlled, recess time, diets, everything. They saw that the alpha males had perfect hearts, perfect arteries. The non-alpha males that were getting picked on their whole life, plaque-filled arteries, thickened linings of their arteries, meaning that the blood vessel could no longer handle the capacity that the heart was pumping, high blood pressure. The only difference. And so we say standard American diet, I say standard American lifestyle. I talked with one of my clients and she was telling me that her daughter's in high school, she participates in band. This last holiday season was huge for holiday concerts. She was staying at the school until 7 or 8 p.m. and then getting home and staying up till 2 in the morning to do homework. And then getting up by 6:30 to make the 7 o'clock bus. We are programming our children from a young age now to accept the overtime, the expectations that corporations are going to put on us for our jobs, and we're accepting it. And all the while, we could be doing everything absolutely right with the nutrition. We could be seeing a fitness trainer to make sure that our body is well, but because of the level of stress in your body, it's going to have a very limited effect. So my friend, if you've lived a very, very stressful life, and probably because you came in much more challenging decades than I, that may have contributed. And so I just wanted to piggyback. I respect him for being humble and just being transparent, and I admire him. I'm going to have a challenge too, guys. He's like the only guy I send my clients to because he's the only one I trust.
Anybody else? Anybody else brave? So we're going to thank you very much for obviously, and I wanted to have the coaches man the tables. We'll probably be able to sit up there for a little bit. If you have any questions, just approach. I'd take a sample of each of these coaches and put them in your back pocket at least, or give them a try. It'd be worth it. So be careful driving. I don't know if it's snowing yet, no? Or do you have anything to say, Cheryl?
There's food.
Oh, there's food also. There's standard American diet out there.
Tim, how are you? Very pleased to meet you. Dr. Rick. So, I mean, he told me that the other day I met with him. I asked him. I saw him in the yeah. And then he said I should answer a bunch of questions.